My wife cheated on me and left me, then said it was just for fun, so I broke up with her. Still, she begged me again, so I did this. We've been married for 12 years. We think we got married when we were pretty young. We both thought it was right at the time, even though she was pretty young. We broke up after 12 months of being together. There were times when I wasn't sure if we were meant to be together, but we knew we were. I like my job a lot. My brother and I own and run a jewelry store together. We built it from scratch, and now it makes a lot of money, which is always something to be proud of. Some people say it's tough to work with family, but it's been great for us. My brother and I have never been the type to always fight, so yours may be very different. Not so with my wife. She opened a cute cafe where people could get coffee, sweets, and books. She is proud that reading is a part of who they are and has always loved books. Before I met her, I didn't like those people at all. Any way you look at it, I'm lying. Bite me, please. Because I wanted to help her. I was really excited about the idea. As a favor, I've paid the rent on the spot she's using for the cafe. The business is making money, which made me happy because I didn't have to worry about rent. The rent is pretty high, because it's in a good part of town. That should tell you everything you need to know. This is where the story begins. I don't remember the exact date, but I think she told me about the new man who came into the shop around March. He looked really good, she said. It was safe for me to be around them, and I learned that it's okay to tell someone how pretty they are. But the way she talked about this guy over and over again was weird. She said he seemed like the kind of strong male hero she reads about in books for women. She also likes those kinds of books. That's weird that women only talk about books. I don't get it, that's the cheesiest way for them to find love. It was over after she talked about this guy for a while longer. She talked about him a lot like she talked about the cold Russian hitman, who fell in love with a woman in the laundry room of their apartment building, though. I didn't make that up. That's from a real book she likes. That was it for the day. She did tell me that he came in the next day and they had a long conversation. He was born in Serbia and used to sell cars for a living. He came to the US, though, to find a better life. It took him a while to get up and find his way. It was his skill that made him look for work at nearby auto shops. It didn't take me long to figure out that he was tall, blonde, good-looking, well-dressed, and spoke with an accent. He seemed to enjoy fantasy. Books like The Lord of the Rings and Western works a lot. Like I said, she talks a lot about the people who come into her shop, so this wasn't strange. But she used a lot of flowery language again. It looked like she was making fun of him. He stopped being new to her after a while, so she stopped going into great depth about him. Even though he didn't seem like he was worth long spills every night, it was clear that he was still a regular at her cafe. That made me feel a lot better. I took him to her cafe one afternoon to bring her food and saw him sitting in the corner. He looked just like him. There was no question in my mind that it was him, and he looked pretty good. Ivan was his name, she said. At this point, things start to go crazy. One night, she came home with a silly smile on her face. I asked her what was wrong. She said that on the way back, they talked a lot about books. Ivan walked her home. She told him she was married and couldn't go on a date when he asked her. They said they were sorry held. My hand said goodbye, and then they left. When I asked her what was making her smile so big, she said, "It's like something out of a book, I'm not going to lie." That part bugged me because it seemed like she was making every interaction she had with Ivan sound romantic. He often went to her coffee shop, so I didn't know that. There was no way they wouldn't talk to each other every day. I would have looked weak if I did that, and she could have told him she didn't have a boyfriend. One more time. I didn't need to talk about things, even though I had something to say. I just had to get over how I felt, right? After about a week, my wife brought home a bunch of flowers and put them in a bowl right away. That's when I knew it wasn't true. She said Ivan gave it to her as a present. Not a lot of interest. He told someone at work that he bought a lot of fur. By the way, he now has a job. Today was her birthday. He thought it would be nice to get me some, because he always sees how hard I work. To make it sound like she was a child who didn't know when someone liked her, she said that, which hurt my head. I asked her right away if she knew how much Ivan liked her. The flowers made her think he was being nice, even though she said it was clear when he asked her to go on a date. I didn't get that because as a guy, you don't get flowers for a girl who turned you down. Because it was the right thing to do, even though she was married. He was still trying to get her underwear. Or maybe he was just trying to get her underwear and not do anything sweet. At that time, it was easy for him to get close to her. He wasn't going to stop for a while. It turned out I was right. My wife came home later than usual 2 days later. She still hadn't told me she was going to be late after almost 2 hours. She didn't answer the 2 calls because she wanted to give it some time. It wasn't the first time she was late getting home. When I called a 3rd time, she was already home, and it was clear that the bubble had moved. I had a crazy night that you won't believe. She began to talk about how she showed Ivan the museum and how they should get a slice of American pizza, since he had never had it and had only seen it in movies. After that, I didn't care what they did next. They walked, talked, ate pizza, and did a bunch of other things. I let her finish, though. When she was done, I asked her, "Are you interested in Ivan?" She looked shocked and angry and said that she wasn't interested in Ivan at all, she was only interested in me. He didn't have any close family or friends in the new country to show him around and answer his questions. It was all she could do to make him feel welcome. I'm still not sure about all of this. I told her straight out that she could no longer see Ivan. There was a big fight because of that. She said a lot of stupid things about how awful it was to feel threatened, how unfair everything was, and how people should stop feeling that way. I was getting really angry, but I was able to control it. But I didn't back down. I told her she shouldn't do anything else with Ivan after school. He could come by her coffee shop because he was a customer. After that, things weren't supposed to get worse. She was told to think about what she would do if a Serbian girl came in to buy a ring. I then showed her around town. She said, "I get it, but I think we all know that's not true, do we?" I slept on the couch, to cut a long story short. That doesn't come as a surprise, but I'm glad I stopped hearing about Ivan's problems. That made me feel better. I knew she would be talking to him at her shop another time, but not much could happen there. I didn't think anything was wrong because she always went home at the same time. One afternoon, I went to my wife's cafe and she wasn't there. That made me think something was wrong. Ivan wasn't there either, but I didn't think he would have been anyway, so it didn't matter. But the fact that she wasn't there was very important because that doesn't happen often. I thought about waiting for her to come back or asking one of her employees where she went, but I decided not to make a scene. As I crossed the street to get back in my car, I saw her and Ivan walking up the street with their arms around each other. But I stayed in the car, watched them walk into the coffee shop, and then I drove off. I really wanted to cross the street, hit the guy, and swear at her. I had a hard time figuring out what happened yesterday, but I think it's very powerful to know something that other people don't. I meant to talk to her about it as soon as she got home. It will also help me spot other lies people may tell. When she got home, I asked her how her day was going, and she said it was pretty normal, and she hadn't been anywhere. This is why I'm here. I don't know where Ivan is. Should I tell her right away, or should I look into it first? I'm moving toward the second choice because I think there might be something going on up my nose. If I talk to her, I feel like I would lose all chance of finding out the truth. Tell me what you think. How are you all? That post about the wife with the cafe and the Serbian man was written by me. I'm back with some pretty big news. I found a lot, so let's talk about it. I had to work a little to feel good about myself. But I decided at some point that I would always look for the truth, no matter what. Even though it made me feel bad, I knew I had to look at my partner's phone. I've never liked the idea of going through their phone. As soon as I could, while she was sleeping, I did it. It wasn't a surprise that she had Ivan in her messaging app. They had been talking a lot. It was easy for me to save the whole conversation as a text file because it was on WhatsApp. That she texted to my phone. Without a doubt, I got rid of the proof. I looked through her album and only found a few pictures of them being happy together in public that didn't really blame them. I sent them to my phone too. Once more, proof was removed. I put her phone back where it belonged in 5 minutes. Once I did that, I read everything on my phone. That made it less likely that someone would wake up and check on you. I saw a lot of crazy things that made my head spin. I've written down this part of the talk in case you think it's awful. It took place after they talked about a book my wife had suggested. Let's call my wife Clarice instead of her real name. Clarice, the main characters made me think of you and me in a way. I thought the same thing. The mystery, hot guy and the arty girl who couldn't choose between him and her boyfriend. In a message right after that. A lot of steamy sex scenes. I feel very close to us when I read that part. I agree that having sex is always fun. But for you, it's a husband. After that, an emoji for a silly laugh. The laugh faces were sent by Clarice. I agree, and I think that's what makes it even more fun and interesting. It doesn't seem right. It's not something I've ever done, but I don't feel bad about it either. It's not right. But that's why it's so hot. I agree. And I don't want this to end. It made me crazy. It was very early in the morning. I couldn't follow her anymore, so I left the house and went for a walk. I would have done something crazy. I was pretty sure of it. But it was only 3 a.m., after being lost in town for what seemed like 5 hours. When I got home, she was also still asleep. Did you ever find out that your wife was cheating on you, and then found out that she laughed at you while she did it? Which is what really drove me crazy. She was. Cheating wasn't going to be okay anyway. When I got back, she was still asleep. I took her phone, went to that part of her conversation with Ivan, and recorded it. It was important for me to make it clear that no one was being a doctor. Clarice definitely felt like she was living. out one of her silly books. But it was disgusting that I had to be the one hurt. She has no idea that I know this. Things are getting worse between them. There's no way this could go any other way. I also want her to fall. I want Ivan to fall too. I'm not sure how I'll make them both hurt really badly. Change 2. It looked beautiful when it was done. Ivan is a Serbian man, and Clarice is his cheating wife who loves books. This is the end of their story. During this whole thing, they shouldn't have been scared about me as much as they were. I'm not going to read the boring parts of the story. I parked my Uber across the street one day while Clarice went to work. Someone brought the divorce papers into the cafe and gave them to her in front of everyone. That was great, and then we left in our car. There wasn't a single message or missed call from Clarice by the end of the day. The whole day at work went well. That she had been cheated on wouldn't change, and she knew it. That's how I saw it. So, she came back that night deeply sad. It's not coming out of her nose. The truth is that she looked like she was a mess. When I saw her that way, I thought it was because there were still bits of love in her. But it didn't last long. She kept asking herself what she did wrong. Was it Ivan? I knew many things she didn't. Before she found out what I knew, she must have looked to see if her plan had any holes. I wasn't sure if I should tell her about Ivan, but I told her I would. I told her I saw her that day, and that I had been walking with her hand in mine, but I didn't say anything else. That's when she got really sure of herself and started to beg and insult me at the same time. She said that wasn't a reason to split up because of that. It was wrong to keep seeing him. No, they weren't seeing each other, and I was just being suspicious. I did not like how you looked. She didn't seem to know whether to be nice or mean to me. She finally left after I told her to. That's where the split really begins. That part was really fun for me. I have more money than she does, so if we split up, I stand to lose a lot more. I had a lot more money though, so I spent it on good lawyers. When you get a divorce, get a good lawyer. Believe me, it's worth it. I told them I was worried, and they showed me a lot of pictures of them together. I also had text messages that made it clear they were cheating on each other. My great lawyer was also able to show me transactions in her joint account that seemed to be used to pay for Ivan. There were times when the dates on some transactions matched the times he thanked her in the text message. It was clear that she liked her man from Serbia more than us. Also, I thought the lawyer did a good job of making her look like she was after money. It was enjoyable to see. Even though she fought hard, I didn't see anything important. Some things about me aren't great, but they're not so bad that a woman would want to leave me. After the split, things went really well for me. I kept my house and car. There was no demand for alimony from me since it was clear that I had cheated on her and given her a way to make money. I love you, Judge. She could keep the car I bought for her. I wasn't worried about that because it didn't bother me enough. It was easy for me to take what I wanted because she didn't have nothing after the split. Now this is my favorite part. It was hard for me to get back to Ivan. It was really hard. He was leaving the coffee shop one day though. He took me down the street and around the corner. I told him who I was and hit him hard in the jaw to get his attention. When I hit him hard and broke his lip, he looked shocked. It was really painful. I didn't want to fight on the street, but I would have if one came up. He got up and left, which makes me think he knew he couldn't be moral in this case. It was nice. Since he knew he was seeing a married woman, I wish I could have done more. That was enough for me though, and it's likely the most I could have done without getting in trouble. Then Clarice. Remember how much I paid for her rent? It was due again, and because her cafe was in a nice part of town, it cost a lot. She called me at the end of May crying and saying she needed to pay the cafe rent but didn't have the money. It was due on May 1st. I told her to sell the car to get the money after she begged and begged. After that, I put the phone down. She called a few times that week, but I never picked up the phone. A secret. I learned she sold the car when she called me to swear at me. She told me it was awful that I could not assist her in any way. I told her it was wrong to think it would be fun and exciting to cheat on me. That was all she had to say. That will be in May of next year. I want to see how hard it is for her to pay the rent. Because she can't reach my secretary, the gods will also punish her by taking away the shop. It's been nice. I'm really happy, I'm single, and I have a lot of money. It was awful to be dumped, lied to, and cheated on, but you have to move on, right? That's what I'll do. Thanks to everyone who stayed and said nice things and gave ideas. Thanks a lot. I hope I never have to write another post. Thank you.